My name is Andrew Smith. I am the Customer Director at First Central.
I'm Dave Taylor. I'm the Head of Retail Operations at First Central.
In my own words, Zingtree enables our frontline colleagues to cater to myriad eventualities as conversations take on their own flavour and support customers in getting better outcomes.
The biggest thing that Zingtree does for us is to remove the cognitive load for the specialists so that it gives them the ability to have more in-depth and more valuable conversations with our customers whilst routing them through journeys that make sure that we remain compliant.
Andrew, when you think about customer complexity today, what's changed in the last few years?
I think customer needs have evolved, and businesses that excel in seamless customer experience have set a bar that businesses in UK financial services, for instance, are being forced to meet because it's become the norm. The level of complexity, I would say, for them is therefore reduced, but the level of complexity for businesses like ours to design journeys that are simple and easy to follow, that's therefore increased because average isn't good enough anymore, and we have to match e-commerce experiences that feel frictionless.
I would agree with Andrew. I think there's an increasing level of governance and compliance and requirements to meet those governance requirements. So Zingtree takes the stress away from that to an extent and allows our agents to focus on what's important whilst also hitting those requirements. I think customers are expecting more, as Andrew says, from contact centres especially. They want to contact us via different routes. They want a personalised service. And that complexity grows and grows along with the compliance requirements. So it's really important, and Zingtree really helps us provide that level of service that customers demand now.
You've worked with Zingtree for a while now. How has the relationship evolved?
Zingtree has always been strong. There were some slight concerns at the beginning with the time differences between the US team and the UK team, but actually Zingtree have been readily available at all hours of the day and night when there's been anything that we've needed to work through urgently. The relationship has evolved as in we've moved on from doing the kind of the setup of the basics. So that's building the call scripting and the decision trees and the nodes that go along with it. And we're now looking into integrations more. So how do we build on what we've already built and integrate with some of our data points to really refine and personalize the journeys that we're able to deliver to customers.
When you first deployed Zingtree's AI, what was the biggest manual or inconsistent process you were hoping to automate?
Our key focus at the moment is on areas that have a lot of demand on the agent during the conversation. So for example, big tables of data, we want to simplify that, pass it through the AI within Zingtree to be able to produce a summarized piece of information that is really tailored to the conversation and the customer that we're speaking to.
Yeah, I think one of the most important things for our frontline agents is we talked about customer expectations increasing, and that doesn't just apply to self-service and online. So when they hit our contact centers, having consistency across processes is essential. And one of the things that large language models are incredibly well suited to is digesting live context and being able to move with the agent and therefore move with the customer. And some of the ideas we have that we're working on with Zingtree are going to start to deliver against that exact requirement.
How did your team distinguish between workflows that were better suited to deterministic logic versus those where generative AI might help?
Within our contact center, we have very telegraphed processes that we have to follow during a conversation. So we have to make sure that we read all of the mandatory statements as we flow through that conversation. And generally speaking, it goes this way or that way. And Zingtree has been great because just the decision tree in the background is able to handle that complexity relatively simply. And going back to my previous point, where the AI solution is going to really help us is when there's a part of the journey that requires either a lot of cognitive load from the specialist or the agent because they're having to deal with a lot of information and try and relay that information in a easy way to the customer or a compelling way to the customer. And to also bring in some personalization. So if we can integrate with some of our customer data to be able to assist the agent give a more personalized answer to the customer, I think that's where it really is, that's where the strengths lie.
Yeah, a lot of the opportunities when it comes to generative AI in the contact center, for me, start to hinge on dynamic scripting. So we've got incredibly well-defined flows, and as Dave touched on, that allows us to get through a lot of the conversation really efficiently and effectively. Where generative AI comes in really strong is being able to dynamically prompt or support our agents as conversations take on aspects that we haven't necessarily defined as deterministic flows already.
Have you seen a reduction in agent judgment errors or compliance risks since implementing logic governed workflows?
We've seen when our agents don't quite get it right, customers either will have a complaint that they might want to lodge because we've gotten something wrong. There has been a material reduction in complaints received as a consequence of agent error, which is fantastic to see. But also, one of the things that I'm most passionate about is getting it right for the customer first time. And the first call resolution increases that we've seen in the last 12 months since we implemented it have exceeded my own personal expectations. And that is in large part due to how easy Zingtree is to build out, amend and iterate and continuously improve.
How do you evaluate what should be automated versus what requires human judgment?
Few different avenues for us to figure out what we should automate versus remain as manual. The first thing we tend to do is look at the data. Where are we finding processes that are either taking a long time or have complexity to them that is prone to human error? The second thing, and arguably more important, but typically supported by the data set, is asking our agents, what do they find the most frustrating things to do? Because typically with frustration can either come complacency or complexity. And then the third place that I like to harvest information from is customer feedback. Not only do the colleagues typically know where our biggest pain points are, they're often reflected in the customer experience as well. And the more we can drive efficiency through our contact, typically the happier our customers are and the happier our frontline colleagues are as well.
What guardrails do you think every AI implementation needs, and how do you ensure they're in place?
So at First Central, we have been an embracer of new technologies since we were created. And one of the material risks with artificial intelligence that we need to manage, particularly if we're moving into a generative AI space, is getting comfort and assurance that the technologies have the appropriate guardrails in place, whether that's the transparency of the models, the explainability of the models, checking for bias within them, even drift. So First Central have taken a very prudent approach, and we have SMEs within our business who are able to get really comfortable with the design and the output of those models. But that's also supported by a wrapper of governance. So that we have an AI board that is stacked with people who know about as much as you possibly can in respect of large language models and generative AI, and they are assessing the risk of a given idea based on its own merit and the potential. The other thing that we've done over the last couple of years is start small. So we've started with things like insight that is then assessed by humans rigorously. And then once we got comfortable that it was generating insight correctly, we were able to move to the next level where it was generating output that we could use with a human in the loop. That has bridged us into bigger and more interesting opportunities. And alongside that, there is also a general assurance that is building around the reduction in hallucinations as the technologies are advancing. Expertise is also increasing. They're relatively new technologies. It's been 3 years since OpenAI changed the world by dropping ChatGPT into our laps. And in that time, we've seen confidence build because of our approach, but also confidence build because the technologies are getting better.
Why did Zingtree stand out as a partner versus other AI vendors?
We stood out because the relationship that we were able to build immediately with Joanne, Pete, GT, and the rest of the team was amazing. They gave us confidence in their ability to be able to support us. The product was great, and it was great off the shelf. The user interface was really friendly. The back end and the way we had to build the workflows and configure them was really easy to do. There was no code or coding requirements, which was a big a big plus for us, and we were able to handle the vast majority of the building of the workflows in-house as well, with just a small amount of support from Zingtree.
So what Dave said, when we started our process to select vendors, Zingtree was the only one that had the strength in the relationship, the user experience for the agent, and the configurability for our colleagues who are building out the flows. Some developed a good relationship with us, others had great UI but lacked the functionality. Others had lots of functionality, but the user interface was just really not there. And Zingtree were the only one that hit all three of those points. And it was clear from the start, based on the strength of the team and the product, that they would be our partner of choice.
The last thing I would add to that is that we also saw the Zingtree roadmap. On that roadmap, we saw a lot of things that we wanted to invest in the future, such as AI integrations and integrations with our back-end data to be able to provide personalized experiences. So that was another plus.
That's a great point. The API flexibility really stood out. And in a world where we need to be efficient to serve our customers, being able to integrate with ease was a huge bonus point. And we've actually done a number of integrations already, and they have been seamless.